Okay, let me just.
You're ready?
No. I feel like I hate cameras and things like that. So.
But thank you very much that you're doing it. That means really a lot.
Thank you for asking. Yeah, much appreciated. All
so
right.
Today we are talking about this lady, the glorious, wonderful Gloria Scott, who created a masterpiece in 1974 with Barry White. A follow-up album was planned but never released. And now, almost 50 years later, you are, Andrew, one of those people who made possible a second album possible. And I would love to hear the story about it.
Okay, well, hi. Yeah, first of all, I'm Andrew. As you know, my name's Andrew McGuinness, and I'm based in the UK. I used to be the musical director for the Baltic Soul Orchestra over in Germany. I think I did that for about 10, 12 years. And Gloria was one of the guests, well, she's a regular guest. I think she still performs there. Over the course of time, you know, you get chatting about things, what happened in between 74 and now and stuff. And she said, well, basically that there was a second album recorded. And so, you know, my ears pricked up immediately. And so did Dan, his ears pricked up immediately. And we said, you know, have you got any recordings? And she said at that point, she said, no, she hadn't. And then, you know, serendipity, something happened and somebody got in touch with her, I think via Facebook, and said, hi, my name's so-and-so. I can't remember the person's name. But this person said, I've got 3 or 4 songs, demos from the original second unreleased. And we were like, wow. So give them, we want to hear them first, you know. We want, yeah. So you know what it's like in soul music, you know, if you've got like something rare, it's the best thing ever. So anyway, so I think Dan organized that and he passed them on to me. So I basically orchestrated them 2010, 2011, 2012, around there, to perform live, and that went well. And so we basically had the idea to try and recreate the second album somehow. But you know, life happens, and it wasn't just a matter of let's go in the studio, because that all costs money, and you know, it's a very involved process. So time went by and nothing happened. I did a few demos on my laptop. They weren't great, but I just did a few sketches here and there, and we were sort of playing around with ideas and stuff. And eventually I stopped working at Baltic Soul. And so I was kind of stuck at home and I was wondering what to do with my time. And at that time, I did have a recording studio here in the UK. So I built up a business with rehearsal rooms and drum shop and a recording studio with a beautiful Trident desk for any nerds out there. Trident is one of the you know, more well-known recording consoles out there. So with all this beautiful equipment, and I've met a few musicians here who were, you know, really good. Some of them worked you know, alongside like Sister Sledge and Incognito, and you know, we've got I'm an old friend of Snowboy, the percussionist, who's, you know, he's got his own name in his own right. He's a legend of himself. And so I thought, do you know what? I think I'm going to spend my time on this record that nobody, you know, we haven't been able to. So I just started messing around really, and just recreated some demos and sent them off to a few people and got some feedback. And eventually I just said, you know what? I'm just going to fly her over to my house and we're going to spend a month here. We did a couple of gigs to help pay for it. And I just got some friends together, some great friends. I actually got, I don't know if you know Sebi, the piano player from Baltic Soul, the funny guy with the long hair.
Yeah,
he's got a big grin on his face. So I flew him over. He came over for 3 weeks, stayed at my place, and we just all hunkered down in the studio for 2 weeks and just basically did the ground tracks, the basic tracks. And Gloria, well, she sang in my toilet because it was the only. You know, legends are made in the strangest of places. So she ended up singing most of the vocals in the toilet, and which was in the control room at that time in the house. I'm in a different studio now. And so, yeah, we just got working on it. And then lockdown happened. So all of a sudden, I've lost my studio, I've lost my drum shop, I've lost my business. You know, everyone's in lockdown. You know, it was, you know, tough for everyone. And so I guess that was the best time in a way, because I was kind of forced, because we're all forced to stay at home. I didn't really have many options. I could have sat in the corner and thought about, oh, poor me, but you know, I thought, no, you know, let's get to work. And so I just sat there in my studio, which was, as I say, in the house at the time, and just carried on producing the rest of the album. And so I don't know, it just happened like that. It wasn't really planned. It just came from somewhere. Like, it could have happened 10 years before the same way, but it just so happened that that moment and the lockdown and everything around it just happened to fall into place all at once. Everybody was kind of up for it, and there were I mean, we had a few bumps because I couldn't go into any studios to mix and to record, because eventually what happened was, when lockdown was lifted, I went over to a place in Southend in the UK, a studio called Big Noise Studio, which is a fantastic studio, and mixed the album. I spent 3 weeks with Simon there, and I ended up, so initially I'd done all the strings on this machine here. Actually, it was just basically MIDI strings on a keyboard, and then try to make them sound good over here. And it was kind of all right for a second, until you really listen to it and you realize that if we're dealing with Barry White here, you know, you can't just put plastic strings on it. It's not going to happen. So I had to go and scrounge some more money from somewhere and do some beg stealing and borrowing, and ended up recording a string section who were phenomenal. And we recorded, I think, 3 tracks, not all of them. Promised Land, for example, hasn't got live strings on. That's done over here. But because it was a kind of a house track, I thought plastic strings would be okay, and you don't notice it so much. But the Barry White stuff definitely needed that extra treatment. So we've got live horns actually on there as well. Snowboy came and did some more percussion overdubs. I got a young lady who I know, but it turns out she sang on Cloud 9 from Jamiroquai.
Wow.
So she did some backing vocals on the title track of the album. Big shout out to Hazel. Hazel's amazing, as is everybody on the album. So yeah, it just came together like that. And then I replaced some bass lines and some guitar parts, and I just did some patching, and that was the final product we finished last October. So basically 2 years exactly. The whole thing was 2 years in the making.
What was Gloria's first reaction when she heard the whole album?
I've got the text here somewhere. I think it was just, wow.
Awesome.
I think that's all she said, but she's a lady of very few words.
Yeah. What can people expect from that second album? Is it a kind of follow-up? What is the intention behind the second album?
Yeah, so that was another issue that I was thinking about quite intensively, is how to package this. Yes, we could have tried to pretend like it was the follow-up album from the album that was never made, or a follow-up album from What Am I Gonna Do? And I found that slightly synthetic, because it's not 1975, you know, it's 2022, and we have to kind of move. So I had this idea to, yes, we're going to keep the original 3 Barry White tracks kind of as they were, with obviously with modern equipment, so they're going to sound modern anyway. But let's just pretend, for example, that Gloria had a recording career, whether successful or not, but she had made some albums. Let's just put that, you know, as a fantasy. what would have been a possible, how would that have sounded over the years? So I tried to produce the music with that in mind. I tried to produce the music to think, okay, so we got 1975, 1976, okay. Then we got Promised Land, late 70s. Then we've got another track, mid 80s, you know, let's put some different. So I tried to, the best of album that never was kind of thing. That was in my, and that way I was able to plot a path, a continual path that made sense, because all the songs are very, very different production wise and sound wise, but I wanted there to be a sort of a thought, a red line going all the way through the album, and I just that's what I went with, and I hope that's what's come out at the end. I don't know, because that's up to other people to decide, you know, for themselves.
What's your favorite track on the record?
Oh, it's probably the one that gets the least attention is the piano track, Come Back Baby.
I love that track. That's my favorite one, to be honest with you.
Really?
I was singing along without knowing the words. So the melody was so, I wouldn't say easy to listen, but it was so easy to follow. So
Yeah.
I was singing along without, she sang the chorus, and the next time she sang it again, I sang it with her, because
you could sing it with, yeah. I think that's yeah, thank you. I think that's a hidden gem.
Absolutely.
And that was just basically, you know, how little instrument. So we've got the big bombastic, you know, I've got to have all of you with the brass section, the backing vocals, the percussion, you know, it's a 25, 30 piece orchestra. Let's do the complete opposite and just have her and a piano. And just as a juxtaposition, a complete and utter contrast to everything else that happens on that album. And I mean, you know, production wise, I like what Adele does, for example, because that's her. She's always starts with a voice and a piano, and then later on you'll hear a little bit of bass and a little bit of cello, and then it's back to the piano and the voice. And I kind of like the way that works. I'm not comparing my production to Adele's production, obviously not, but the you know, the construct of just having something very simple. Or, you know, another great example would be I'm Not in Love by 10cc. All right, so you've just got the Fender piano or the Wurlitzer or whatever that is, the electric piano, and the voice, and it just sucks you in immediately, because that's all there is, and it's so intense. And I just wanted to get something a little bit, you know, personal. So I hope we've achieved that.
In my opinion, you did. I love the record, and I must say, Gloria sounds fantastic. She's no more 20 or 30, but she sounds fantastic. It's a very haunting record, I think. You know, you want to listen to it over and over again.
Oh, that's great to hear. I mean, I've heard it to death. So, you know, my wife keeps saying I can't really listen to it anymore. But yeah, I'm glad you feel that way. And obviously it's great, because she is older, but I think that doesn't do her, you know, it does her a lot of justice. She comes off well, you know, being a mature person. She's got all that life experience over that 40 years, 50 years. And you can hear that she's still very soulful.
Yeah, and absolutely you can hear that in my opinion in Baby Come Back. So it sounds absolutely true and honest, because you believe during the nature of her voice that she went through it. So for me it was like, yeah, I believe that. And that's very important when I listen to a record.
I mean, generally when I listen to music, I'm always listening for authenticity over technicality. That's not to say that I don't find technical music interesting, and I can get it from a cerebral level. But what touches me is, you know, fragility and raw emotion and authenticity. Like, you know, one of my favorite examples is Johnny Cash's the Trent Reznor song "I Hurt Myself," you know, Hurt. Again, wow, you know, just thinking about the song makes me feel quite emotional. Just to think about it, it's amazing, it's incredible. And so, you know, anything that's got, it could even be Metallica, Nothing Else Matters, right? That's an authentic song right there. That's almost soul music, because it's soulful. He means it, you know, and nothing else matters. It's like you kind of, you know, so it could be, it doesn't have to be, you know, R&B or soul or funk or jazz. I'm not specific to that. It just has to be authentic, and I think that's what I tried to put into the Gloria record, you know, authenticity.
So I hear you put years of work into that record, years and years of work.
12
12 years in making this record, and it's absolutely worth it. So I can only recommend everybody getting it from Acid Jazz. I've also seen it on Bandcamp. You can get it digitally. Just have a listen. You're gonna love it. I'm pretty sure you're gonna love it. Will there be a follow-up?
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
It would be awesome.
I don't know. I've run out of money now. Sometimes if I can sell enough of these records in order to pay off what I'm missing from my bank account, then possibly. I don't know. I mean, I would love to do maybe some singles. You know, I don't know. I would love to do. I mean, Gloria would love to do some, but she lives there, we live here. Resources are limited. I mean, I did pay for all of this myself.
Wow. Okay.
So, you know, it wasn't like anybody came along and gave me, you know, a bunch of cash and said, go and have fun. It's like literally I went out and did gigs in pubs, because, you know, I'm a drummer, right? So I was literally doing blues gigs for, you know, 80 quid, 100 quid, putting it in a pot. And as soon as I had a grand together, I'd buy her a flight. So it was kind of like getting, you know, and like I said, I lost my business at the same time. So it was a big deficit there as well, at the same time as investing in Gloria's record. So, you know, I kind of need to earn some money and do some work here, which is what I'm doing at the moment. I'm working on some stuff here, hopefully to get in some revenue. Who knows? If it sells well, maybe the good people at Acid Jazz will be, you know, kind enough to help out. Who knows? I'm open to that. I would love to.
Yeah, and the fans of soul music would love that too. Like I said, I can only recommend getting that record. And what I found was absolutely great that you also put it out on vinyl. It was just a digital CD. It was vinyl, and that's and also the cover picture of the new record of So Wonderful. It has a green flavor to it. She wears a green thing.
The green top.
Yeah, and that was so, and I looked at the cover and I said, yeah, that's an absolutely fitting cover for a record like this. So in my opinion, that's the perfect record for her at that time.
That was a very happy accident, because we only had a limited number of photos available that were good enough quality for a record, and that one with the green top, that was an absolute, it was an absolute happy accident. So we took that one, and we thought, oh, okay, so the two, it kind of then and now, you know, they're it would be interesting to find out. Now we've done that journey, we've bridged the gap. Okay, what would have happened theoretically over 50 years? We've arrived at this point.
Yeah.
What does she sound like now, like today, 2022 and 2023? So that would be an interesting you know, project to think about. What would she really sound like now? Because I think we've covered that part. That's a done, you know, we've bridged that gap sort of thing musically. So I would be interested in that. And then what third record cover would we do for that? Not another green one, please.
So there's a producer out there, someone who wants to support the project. As you can see, Andrew is all open, and the fans are as well. So I can only
hopefully.
Andrew, thank you so much for your time. It was
very welcome.
Awesome. And once again, I put links for ordering the record in the description so everybody can order.